What's up, Chicago? It's your man, Maze Jackson, getting ready to do my first Ken Talk live right here at Kenwood Academy. I'm a little nervous because, you know, the young people, they are a very tough audience. But today we're going to be talking about politics and self-interest. We'll talk about what's in it for the black people. We'll talk about the election and where do we go from here. I'm looking forward to it, so tell all your friends, get everybody ready, share the broadcast. Share the broadcast, take a moment, share the broadcast.
Copy, thank you.
Come on. What's up? Who's out there? Y'all watching? What we got? Let's see who's up there. Nobody. All right, we fine. We'll be okay.
I'm about to share it, so we do it.
You can get it cracking. And then I'm going to push this up. See now, if this was Bolingbrook High School, we wouldn't be able to be on the logo.
Oh, yeah.
Nah, you can't get on the radar, man.
Man, y'all go hard in Bolingbrook.
Huh?
I said y'all go hard for Bolingbrook.
Bolingbrook is because it's the greatest school ever. Go Raiders. Did you say Are you all right?
I don't think so.
You don't think that the home of the Bolingbrook High School Raiders is the greatest? I think so. I am ignorant. I should not have folded.
Do you understand? I got you something. So, either you or me can stand by the door to collect the permission. Well, the sign-out sheets make sure that only people who have sign-out sheets are here, except for people from NICA, they can just come in.
Okay.
Because it's there too.
All right.
What's in it for the black people? But that's where what's in it for the black people started, was what's in it for me. And then I started seeing that it wasn't just me. It was happening to all of us systematically.
Oh, man, yeah. No, Nick. Okay, you got it.
You know what I would have done?
What's that?
I would have been on the logo. I would have been on the logo until it was time to stop.
Man, this is Mr. Wilson.
Hey, man.
Hey, Mr. Wilson, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Hey,
Hey, could you please stop calling me Mr.
I
Maze? Hold on, Maze.
Okay.
My dad is Mr. I am
don't call me
Maze,
Mr. no more.
Maze.
Same thing.
Period, point blank. Period, point blank.
So that's your dad.
So what do you do?
I teach freshman.
Make this
geography.
enough.
Okay. And I also run the Micro Challenge Club.
Oh, awesome.
You heard that one?
I definitely. Come on, man.
Okay.
Everybody knows about the mix of challenges you've done in politics. Anyway, those are some very stupid.
Yeah. I graduated at 12 and I'm trying to get a new crop, so this actually helps.
Well, I hope, you know what, that's awesome, and if we can be helpful in any way, you know, if you ever want to be elected, somebody to speak, you know what I mean? I can do them on both sides of the aisle.
Okay. No.
You know, it would be, this is a place that my best friend actually became the director of outreach and things. So it's also an opportunity to just make them ask the questions and have us sit down with the kids and let them answer these questions. I'm saying don't, make sure they just get to see perspectives from both sides. Right? Ask, invite the speaker out. Invite Speaker Madigan and say, hey man, come on talk to the kids, tell us what we fighting for.
So I was not here yesterday because I didn't get to sick. So I wasn't here yesterday. So we were representing the club.
Okay. Questions ready? Nick? Hey, Josh.
I apologize, I didn't make it yesterday.
Quite all right.
I'll make it up next week. Same question.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, you good? You got me on. Very good. Get the kids, get the whole thing. This is dope. This is a very.
I saw you on the internet last night.
Oh, that was a crazy day. That was very difficult because it was supposed to be and I didn't know. So I'm sitting here like, wait, what? Oh my God. And so then I realized they were trying to but you know what I do is very interesting. She's very podcast on the road. So we do that, we talk to talk to everybody. No, Mondays from 8 to 9. We do it on Facebook Live and then the next day, Jim.
Okay. Do you know the Houston project just started? I just been great.
No, you gotta have a television studio. Did you get that online, or my mom paying for that in data?
You said what?
Did we get the Wi-Fi, or am I doing that in data?
I can give you the Wi-Fi code. Do you need it?
Are we good? Let's go. We talk about for the actual video.
You have Wi-Fi. You want our Wi-Fi code? Yes.
That's fine, you can use it, but I'm saying that you realize that I'm eating data.
Oh, you need okay. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
But it's cool. You can't change it because you already live.
All right, come in quickly. Make sure you move in. Move in.
Guys, move your book bags out of the way because there's going to be quite a few students in here and everybody needs to fill in. So as you come in, make sure you fill in. Somebody should be sitting by somebody.
That's what you here for early morning breakfast. Brady, your class is in. Your class is in. I mean, they're here already. Are they? I wanted to welcome you to our Ken Talk. This is you know, one of the things. I don't know if how many freshmen are in the room. If you're a freshman, raise your hand. Any freshmen? No? Okay. Academic Center students? Okay. So what Ken Talks is a distinguished speaker series. And so, you know, topics are driven by either current events or student interests. And so today, Madison Holly.
Be mad,
Mr. Wilson, who's a part of MICFA Challenge. And then we have a special guest, an outside radio personality, Mays Jackson, that are going to talk about you ready? You listening? Post-election. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over, but I just wanted to go over the protocol and the decorum of a Ken Talk. So, number one, you see we're in an intimate space. So just like you can hear me without a mic, the speaker can hear you. All right, so we're in intimate space. So that means you're attentive, you're listening with your eyes. What does that mean? You're making eye contact. When the speaker looks at you, you should be looking at them. You're refraining from eating chips, which is very loud. You've unplugged your ears, right? So that means that you're showing the speaker that you're paying attention with whatever your audio is, that it's off. And that you're not engaging in technology unless it is around the subject. So, you know, we tweet, we snap, we Instagram, but this is not just a text messaging time with you and your friends, okay? So I'm gonna pass it over to one of our Ken Talk organizers, Nayla, and then we'll get started.
So MICFA is a civic engagement political club that we have at Kenwood that meets on Thursdays. They brought the speaker and their sponsor, Mr. Wilson, and also one of the main coordinators, Madison, to talk to you about what post-election looks like for us, right? So after this Ken Talk is meant for education, but it's also meant for like active doing something after this. So we want you to leave this Ken Talk with more knowledge, but also like will and wanting to do something about what's going on in however way you feel is needed. So after this Ken Talk, just make sure that you're actively doing something to better your community after that. Okay?
Okay, y'all, I have one request. So I need you to take out maybe your phone for your notes, maybe a piece of paper. Write down questions that you might have for Mr. Jackson towards the end. That's what I need y'all to do. Write down questions. Any questions you have, write them down. All right. So, this outstanding human being I'm introducing has a whole host of achievements under his belt. He's a political analyst for the Intelligence Group, which is a full-service public affairs agency in Chicago. Before he worked with the Intelligence Group, he served as the executive director of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. He is a partner of Compass Public Affairs, and he has spent the previous 15 years as CEO of Universal Mass Jack Enterprises Incorporated, a full-service urban advertising, marketing, and promotions agency. Along with that, he's the vibrant, knowledgeable, social personality we all know and love from WVON AM, where he is known for his tagline, "What's in it for the black people?" In an effort to save time, where I can spend hours talking about this highly intelligent individual. So please, give a big round of applause to Bolingbrook native, Mays Jackson.
First of all, I want to thank Madison for that introduction, and I was listening to him, I'm like, who is he talking about? Right? I'm like, who is that guy? I want to take a few moments to just do some acknowledgments really quickly. I want to thank CPS for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you all. I want to thank Liz Kirby and Tanisha McGee over at the central office for suggesting that I come here. Thank you to the principal, Gregory Jones, and I also want to thank Mr. Walker for allowing me to be here. As you heard just a little bit, my name is Mays Jackson. I am a political strategist and consultant. I have worked with everybody from President Barack Obama to Governor Quinn to manage and run local elections. I also have served as a lobbyist. I'm not sure if you all know what a lobbyist is. You hear about it a lot, but really I have worked for some of the top corporations, Fortune 500 corporations, changing laws to benefit their corporate interests for a fee. As well as I serve as a media personality. I have my own podcast and my own website. So I do a podcast every Monday night with Charles Thomas from ABC7. It is the Mays Said Video podcast. I do that on Intellectual Radio and iHeart, as well as I do the Mays Jackson Social Media Question of the Week every Thursday from 8 to 9 on WVON. I don't know how many of you all listen to WVON unless your parents are forcing you to on the ride to work. But if you are interested in social media, I want to encourage you all to check it out because we talk about a lot of great things. And then prior to that, you heard that I owned my own marketing and promotions firm for 15 years, Universal Mays Jack Enterprises Incorporated, where we represented everybody from Coca-Cola, Sprite, McDonald's, AT&T, Ringling Brothers, and Disney on Ice. Probably my most famous client was Jay-Z, where I represented him in the Midwest for approximately 12 years. I think we fell out right around the Cameron Jay-Z merger. But I was invited here today to talk to you guys about kind of really assessing politics and assessing where we are now. How many of you all are feeling some kind of way about Donald Trump? How many of you are a little nervous, a little concerned that he's been elected president? Well, you know, it seems like, so there is some tension and some concern. Well, let me back up. I just want to tell you kind of how I got here, why I'm even in front of you. So I represented Coca-Cola, Sprite, McDonald's. How many of you guys know Common, the rapper Common is? So back in 1999, I signed him to his first endorsement deal. And from there, I represented a variety of corporations, helped them in marketing, helping them raise Coca-Cola, making about $60 million in incremental income. While I was doing that, a city of Chicago alderman released a rap record. Yeah, I know, he released a rap record. And the rap record, he wanted to have the best promoter at the time, and at the time I kind of had the title. And so he asked me, could I help him promote his rap record? While I helped him promote his rap record, he said, boy, you guys do a lot of the same things that we do in politics. You just do them with a little bit of flavor. And so after helping him with his rap record, he asked me to join his political campaign, to manage his campaign. I managed his campaign and I fell in love with politics. And when I fell in love with politics, what intrigued me was the power of politics. The power. You know, so many people say I don't want to be involved in politics, but politics affects you from the womb to the tomb. How many of you have a birth certificate? That's politics. How many of you all know people that have died and had to get a death certificate? Right? That's politics, from the womb to the tomb. So as I made the transition from marketing to politics, I really started to recognize that politics was not what I thought it was. For me, if you're like me, at a young age, you thought politics was Democrats or Republicans. How many people are like, I'm a Democrat? How many people are Republican? I know I'm Republican. But the fact of the matter is, in our lives, politics has always been taught to us in a binary system. You're either red or you're blue. But I choose to look at politics in a different way. Karl von Clausewitz called it war by another means. How many of you all have ever thought of politics as war? What is it a war for?
Power.
Power?
Money.
Power, control. Wait, come on. I heard power. I heard control. I heard something else.
Money.
Who said self-interest? Exactly. So let me back up. All of those things are what politics is about, but it all boils down to your self-interest. Does anybody know what your self-interest is?
Your own personal
You don't get
gain.
to answer this one. Self-interest. Go ahead.
Your own personal gain.
So self-interest is defined as the focus on the needs and the desires of one's self, right? So you can have multiple self-interests, right? You're a student, you go to Kenwood. Kenwood could be one of your self-interests. You're black, you may be Latino. That could be part of your self-interest as well. So when we look at the election of Donald Trump, I want to tell you to take a look at it from a different perspective. Instead of looking at it from the perspective of red and blue, look at it from the perspective of self-interest, right? So how many of you all saw the electoral map? And they told us that there were states that were red and there were states that were blue, and they would never change, and so we were battling for just 2 states. How many, do you think that the states that turned blue, all those people just that turned red, did all those people just become racist?
No.
Did they all wake up one day and say, you know what? I decided I don't like black people, I don't like Latinos, I don't like gays, I don't like the LGBT community. Do you think that's what happened? Or do you think that people started to look at their self-interests, right? So, what you saw from the Democratic Party was quite a few very liberal Democrats telling you how stupid anyone would be for voting for Donald Trump, right? What did Donald Trump talk about? He talked about jobs. He talked about immigrants coming over a wall. What was he talking about?
Bettering the middle class.
He was talking about the self-interests of the people and the constituents he was talking to. Right? So if you live in Detroit and you made a living for your family building cars, right? You might not care about the wall. You might not care about what he said about Mexicans or Latinos or immigrants. What do you care about? Your self-interest in that is keeping your job. So, I would just like to encourage this group to look at politics from a different perspective, right? Look at it from the perspective of who represents your self-interest. So, again, when you look at Donald Trump activated racial fears as an attempt to appeal to people's self-interest. But I would tell you that as a white guy from Manhattan, real talk, he's gonna be a challenge being a southern redneck racist guy, because who does he have to deal with, right? Liberal New York type of people. So I really feel like you have to look at this election from a different perspective. And young people, you all have it a lot different, right? Because how many of you all know about Bernie Sanders? How many of you all, well, let me ask a question, back up. How many people here can vote? How many people here are going to have their first chance to vote coming up very soon? That's very important, because we want you to look at elections a very different way. Look at it from the perspective of your self-interest. Now, if we were in this room and there was a vote and everybody could vote, how many people would vote for Hillary Clinton? This is just Democrats. So you got Hillary Clinton and you got Bernie Sanders. How many people here vote for Hillary Clinton? How many people here vote for Bernie Sanders? Okay. Now, why Bernie Sanders?
Because our self-interest.
Hold on. Why Bernie Sanders?
Because he's trying.
Come on, give me a second. Why Bernie Sanders?
Because he actually has a plan to better the middle class.
You're the middle class?
Yeah.
Okay.
He appeals to the self-interest, but specifically people our age that are going to be going to college in a couple years. He's like trying to make college like free nationwide and stuff like that. So
Free healthcare too.
He appears to be more trustworthy than Hillary Clinton. He answers questions fully.
Anybody else? All of the things that you heard people say, self-interest. right? What did Hillary Clinton talk about? Exactly. Nobody has a concise idea of what she talked about, except she told us that Donald Trump was bad. She never appealed to your self-interest, and they never closed the gap, right? So after they moved Bernie Sanders out, and then Hillary Clinton was there, what did Hillary Clinton do to bring you and your friends on board? Nothing. And so let me tell you what that equals. So,
Not being amazing.
okay, so check this out. So President Obama got 93% of the black vote. That's almost unheard of. Right? Anything above that, and the feds are coming to investigate. Hillary Clinton got 87% of the black vote. Right? So what's that? What's that, an 8-point difference? 6. Okay, so I'm not a math guy. I'm glad. That's why I'm at Kenwood. So that 6-point difference was the difference between Hillary Clinton being elected president and not. And why? Because she never talked about anyone's self-interest. And so what I want to encourage you all to do is, instead of when you're getting all the rhetoric about politics, start asking what is your self-interest. Now, the reason I'm here today is because during the last election, I published a document called the What's in It for the Black People Voters Guide. The What's in It for the Black People's Voters Guide. Now, there were people who said, Mace, that's racist. You can't do that. How are you going to? All people. Right? But what motivated me to create a What's in It for the Black People Voters Guide was, how many of you all know who Laquan McDonald is? How many of you all know who Rekia Boyd is? How many of you all have seen the videos of our people being shot down in the streets? Okay? Right? So I was a participant in Black Friday. I kicked it off. I helped kick it off. We helped lead it. And I've been involved in protest after protest after protest for a whole year. And so one day I came home, got my mail, and I got a mailer from the party that I trust, right? Neither side. The party that I trust. And that a tremendous amount of my community trusts. And when I looked at the people that they told me to vote for on the list, the judge who banned the Laquan McDonald video from being released was on the list, right? The judge that allowed the police officer to get let Rekia Boyd go was on the list. And here is this group that I trust, that our community has trusted for years, and my daughter is out. Well, my daughter probably wasn't out there, but she was probably trying to shop. Anyway, but my daughter, my kids, my daughter's friends were out protesting, and here we are, after all those protests, we are about to re-elect the people that were protesting. And I said to myself, who has our self-interest at hand? Who? Not who speaks for us? And when I say us, right? Because let's say everybody in this room is Democrat, right? But we all got some different issues. And there's different problems that face each one of our communities. Can we agree with that? And so when the people that I trust, self-interests don't align with mine, or the community or the constituency that I'm dealing with, then we have to take it upon ourselves. So we published the What's in It for the Black People Guide, because in the history of Cook County, there's never been a judge. Now think about all the good, the bad, all the times we've heard about police torture, everything. There's never been a judge since 1996 who was not thrown out. Now, how many of y'all think the most important election this year was the presidential election? Oh, good, good. Okay, so, all right, since we got smart people, what was the most important election this year? Nah, you've been answering too many questions. In the back. You said the House and the Senate. Who else got one for me?
I say the local elections.
Okay. What else? How many of y'all think y'all gonna meet the president? Oh, let me back up. Slow down. How many of you all think that you will actually meet the current or a U.S. president? Like, straight up, walk up, have a conversation. How you doing, Mr. President? What's going on? Mr. President, this is my issue. How many of you think you'll have that opportunity? Okay. Congress. How many of you all think that you will walk up to your congressman and be able to share or have an interaction with them? Okay. I mean, and I'm not saying that you won't. I'm not saying that you won't. Now, how many of you all think that you might get a speeding ticket one day? All right, I got another one for you. How many of you all think that you will get a red light camera ticket one day? Or have had one? Right? So, now, your self-interests, what is the most important election to you? Right? You're more likely to see a judge, good, bad, or ugly, than you will a president. But we're up in arms about the president. The person that is going to make the decision on Laquan McDonald and Jason Van Dyke is not Donald Trump. Right? So, you have to start recognizing what are in your best self-interest. I want to encourage you to vote for every election. But drill down. Don't just take the easy answer, right? Because somebody give you a list. How many times have you gone with your mom and they just hand them a list and they just go straight down that list? Now, how would you feel if you went straight down that list and voted them people and then you went to see them and they gave you a bond of $600? When you understand your self-interest, how many people here say that politicians don't do nothing? They don't do nothing for me. We ain't see them. It's because we have not, as a community, started to recognize our self-interest. So, when you look at Donald Trump, I want to encourage you not to just buy into the Donald Trump is a racist. I'm not saying he ain't. I'm not saying he's not. Excuse me, Ms. School. But what I am saying is that everybody that voted for Donald Trump was not necessarily voting to build a wall. They were voting on their self-interests. And you have to identify what your self-interests are as you make your decisions. As you move into the political realm, what are the self-interests of you and the constituencies? Some people, as an alderman or as an elected official, you have multiple self-interests, right? Because say you're an alderman, so you got to deal with your ward. So your first priority is the people who vote for you directly. But then as a black elected official or a Latino elected official or as an Irish elected official, there's a variety of caucuses. Then you have issues that are collectively for your group. But you might like dogs, right? So dogs may become part of your self-interest as you start to lobby and start to affect. So fundamentally, what I want to make sure that you all get out of this today is that you must vote based on your self-interest and who is going to do the most for the people that you care the most about. Now, this election, we saw a lot of things. I'm a media guy, right? And they told me to address the fake media. The fact of the matter is the world has changed. And Hillary Clinton played in an old world, in an old model. She spent money on TV. She spent hundreds of millions of dollars on TV. And how many people told Donald Trump he was crazy for sending a tweet out at 3 in the morning? But he talked to 23 million people every time he sent it out. So while she said, oh, that's bad, and they were able to use the fact that they understood that to feed the stories, feed stories to people. How many of you all, where do you get your news from? Huh? How many, let me do this. How many of you all get your news from channel 2, 5, 7, or 9? Like you come home, you turn on the news? Or did you get a Twitter story? I'm Facebook, you know, I'm old. But did you see the story in your Facebook feed or on your Twitter feed and then click it and then go to their site? Did you come home and say, ooh, I got to watch the 10 o'clock news? Right? So, while people would tell you about fake news changing the election, I wouldn't say it's fake news as much as it is making the leap from the television era to the social era, right? So you know that the stories in your, can you distinguish a phony story in your news feed? Do you know when it's bogus? Right? The American people are a lot smarter than people want to give them credit for. They want to find every answer to tell you why it didn't work, why Hillary Clinton didn't win. Right? They'll tell you that, oh, it was the fake news. Oh, it was the white racist that came out. It was all about self-interest. People voting for the things that mean the most to them. So, some of you, and you got some MIGVA challenge people here. Some of you may one day someday one of you or some of you may run for office. Right? When you think about that, you have to start thinking about the interests of the constituency that you represent. When I am in Springfield as a lobbyist, and this is just, and I'll wrap up this so you can have questions. Part of the reason that the statement, what's in it for the black people, came out was because, how many of y'all have heard the term minority? Right? So in the term minority, that's white women, that's blacks, that's Indians, Native Americans, indigenous people, that's Latinos. And they expect us to split up 20% of the pie while the majority eats 80%. Well, right now in the state of Illinois, black folks do 0.25% of the business with the state. Not 25%, not 2.5, but 0.25 in the minority category. At the same time, white women do probably about 12%. Latinos do about 8%, and Asians do about 7%. So as I look at that in the minority pile, right? In the minority pile, my self-interest is minorities. But then when we break that down, if we're only getting 0.25, I have to identify what is my self-interest. And so what the genesis of what's in it for the black people is, it's not against anyone, but it is really starting to say we have to advocate for our own self-interest. That's why I have a what's in it for the Latinos. That's why I have a what's in it for the Asians. That's why I have a what's in it for the Native Americans. But the fact of the matter is, politics is about advocating for your own self-interest. And that's all I got for you. Any questions? I do want to take a moment because I want to say thank you all, because you all are very nervous about speaking to young people, because y'all are very tough audiences. And I just want to tell you thank you for being such a respectful audience and being so attentive. I'm happy to answer any questions if there's time left.
So, First things first, first things first, I'd like to just go around the room and see, is there any brave volunteer who would like to give one word describing how they're feeling after this election? Anybody? One single brave volunteer.
Not for it, man.
I feel like Trump don't really represent me,
They said one word.
one word. Disappointed.
I feel invested.
Invested?
Go ahead.
Okay, worried and scared.
Informed.
Well.
Optimistic.
Disgusting.
All right. Final one. You have? Oh, that was it? Anybody else? All right. Final one. Oh, okay. So then, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
An amazing amount of students within here have said something negative about the post-election and how everything has went so far.
Okay.
What do you believe can be done by us to help us feel better about everything that's happened?
That's a good one. Well, I think the first thing is you get active. I think that you have to find out what is it that you're passionate about? What do you care about? What is it that you care about that you're willing to take action to do? And I think you sit down and you make a plan. You find a group of people that feel the same way and you begin to advocate. I think you guys have a lot of tools in your toolbox that we didn't have years ago, and the ability to organize. So I would tell you to organize and speak out on your issues. I'll get you next. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, something positive to come out of this election with is Canada's accepting American refugees.
All right, come on, guys.
I don't know if you went. You probably did go, but I went to go see Angela Davis speak at the University of Chicago, and she was talking about how government has never been helpful to minorities, and she suggested to invest in creating our own party. And I wanted to ask you if you think that is likely. I mean, not likely, but do you think that will create a change? Do you think that's more that will be more effective than figuring out who between these two parties should we invest?
So, I am a political pragmatist, right? I am not an idealist. I am trying to figure out how do I get the most for my people. To start a new party requires that you get 5% nationally of the vote across all 50 states, which makes that a very difficult hurdle to climb. I am not discouraged. Us in the streets. So I would say that I am not a fan of starting a new party unless that party already has national recognition, because the system is set up to keep it a two-party system and make it very difficult for anybody else to enter the fray. I think it's cool, it's great conceptually, but practically it's not until we get past the two-party system. In the back.
Our past presidents haven't really done anything. So us having a business thought he was gonna get this far, honestly. I think it surprised him as much as it surprised us.
So, let me say this. And this is probably not gonna be the most popular thing to say, but I think that particularly the black community has been a victim of boogeyman politics, right? So we've had the highest rate of incarceration for black people occurred under Democratic rule, right? In Illinois, the worst state for black people, unemployment, we have double the unemployment for black people in Illinois than anywhere else in the country, worse than Mississippi, worse than the Deep South, right? The way that our community has been tricked out of representing our self-interests is by saying that this guy is so bad that you all are going to go back to slavery, or you all are going to get the chains put back on you. The fact of the matter is, right, we've lived through false wars. We have lived through the highest rate of incarceration, more than when the United States was at the peak of slavery, right? I'm not going to do battle for two people who have demonstrated that they really don't care about us. So what I need to do is, what can you give us? What can you give us? We're going to put it together and we'll move forward. So I would say that I don't think that Donald Trump is our friend, but I don't think he's any more of our enemy than anybody else has been in the past. So now what we have to do is say, are we going to sit out of politics, and are we going to sit out of government and be cut off from resources for the next 4 years? Or do we say, this is our path forward, and this is how we make the most out of the situation? Yes, sis.
Okay, you talked about self, like who we see ourselves as. I'm black, you're black. Okay, so as Donald Trump becoming president, do you see our community decreasing, or do you see it increasing? Like in the future, do you see us as actually winning, or because you say he was like good in politics or whatever, but I'm just saying, think about the future and who he will be as president.
Okay, so I think...
Like, do you think our community is actually safe?
I think... Right, there's where I would be, right? Like, how safe is our community right now, first of all? Then second of all, I would say in the toughest times have been traditionally where our community has thrived, right? When, so, you know, I don't know. I would say that things, and I can't predict the future, and I want to be truthful. I see that Donald Trump spoke to some issues that our party would tell us, oh, no, let's not even look over there. Oh, no. He told you that your cities are bad. Well, I mean, in some cases, not all or nothing in politics, right? It's Donald Trump might be bad, but he may propose some policies in housing and urban development that allow us to rebuild our communities, right? So again, I think we have to wait and see, but also, we can't wait for someone to do for us. We have to start saying, what are we going to do to empower ourselves in our own communities? Donald Trump, I'm not going to see Donald Trump, but I am going to see Junebug. So what's my game plan for him, right? When I got to walk through the brothers to get to school, what's the game plan for those guys? And what are we doing to deal with that? Because Donald Trump ain't going to do it. Donald Trump would be like, lock him up. But Hillary will too.
I'm sorry, before you take the next question, this will probably be the last question. The bell rings at 12:39. I just want to say, MICPA Club meets room 210, Thursday, 4:30 to 5:30. We continue this conversation. But again, bell's going to ring momentarily. Okay.
Last question. Dushan, I'm gonna take Mr. Opportunity. Come on.
So, you know, we as a black community, we see Donald Trump as being like somewhat of an enemy, or like he's not looking at our views how he should. So, coming from the black community, like what positive things do you think he has to offer as president? And, like, where do you think our hair should lie when it comes to believing in our next president?
I think that we should be vociferous in advocating for the issues that are important to us and give them no pass.
I'm sorry, but I don't know what that means.
We should be vocal. We should be loud. We should use our voices and our actions to be. Let me just tell you something. For the last 8 years, black folks have been quiet. We haven't said a word because we can't. We know that it hasn't necessarily gotten better, right? But we couldn't put our brother on Front Street. Well, right now it is time for us to open up those mouths that have been quiet, voting, getting out, being active, electing people, electing change. Right now, you look at our leadership at the top of the party, they're like 80 years old. They're making decisions based on what they knew as baby boomers that are going to affect your lives. So I would also encourage you, think about running. Think about getting actively involved in the political process, not just marching and protesting, but figuring out how